Testing 1 2 3. My name is Dimpo and this is my show. Not me speaking into a teaspoon. It's a great teaspoon though, it's like a wand. Woo! This is gonna be interesting. Hi there beautiful people, welcome back to my channel. Yes, I'm speaking into a teaspoon that is holding my microphone. I just feel, I didn't want to put it on me because I'm like, can I just have it at a bit of a distance? And obviously drew some inspo from Katie Stamps. And it's a nice teaspoon, it's really doing the job, right? So, I just wanted to have a nice little chat with you because the past from November has been a bit of a whirlwind. So many events have happened. Like, you've seen all the great highlights and everything's been fun and yay and Cape Town and like New Year's. All those things were genuinely fun and exactly how I presented them. But there definitely were events in between that were like, whoa, hold up. Wait a minute. So, a life update is definitely very necessary because there is a whole lot of things happening and changing and happening. But first of all, let's address the fact that I said there was going to be a second part to my Cape Town vlog. I'm so sorry. There is not. I had loads of footage and your girl really thought I'd gathered everything and put it all separately so that it is in 2 different folders, but apparently I didn't do that. And I'd actually used up all the footage for that one part. So I'm just gonna give you a summary of the rest of my trip. But essentially, I was gonna stay in Cape Town for another week. Unfortunately, those plans didn't work out. Accommodation, all those details, just it was not happening. I just squished seeing a couple of people all in one day. Thankfully, my family got to stay for an extra day or two, which means I had the chance to see them. I got to spend time with my beautiful cousin. We essentially had dinner together, great chats. It was so lovely. It was so good to catch up. I hadn't seen her in years. And then I got to spend time with my beautiful friend Sarah, who I've been friends with since grade 2. That was so much fun. We basically went to Signal Hill and just chatted into the evening, spent time with a little cute dog, Bimo. So sweet. I didn't get to see all the people I wanted to, so hoping to be able to go back again at some point in this life because I love Cape Town. Wow. I forgot I moved there in a heartbeat. There's so many other things which is exactly what I'm going to be touching on. So, as soon as I got back into Pretoria, that was early January. That was the 6th of Jan. I hung out with my friend Gemma and we went skating. And that's where I filmed what was going to be the intro of this video. This is unsafe, righto. So as you'd have seen by the title, I'm going to be giving you guys a bit of a life update. Very necessary. I say a bit of a life update. It's basically a big life update because so much has happened and there's so many changes. So the most important and probably the most surprising one is that we're moving back to South Africa. Yeah, I know. So Seth and I were pretty much set to move back here to South Africa, move back to Pretoria, essentially begin the process of finally being able to be together, like settle down and figure out what goes on from that point. But I mean, it was gonna happen and now we've had even more plot twists, which is unreal. So let me go back a bit just to give you more context. So when I left the UK, I left by myself because something a handful of you guys, as well as like family and friends, have asked was, why do Seth and I fly separately? We fly separately because one of us is always going back to their home country, which means if I'm going to the UK, Seth is coming back to the UK. If Seth is going to South Africa, I'm going back home to South Africa. And that means one person already has a plane ticket booked. So for example, I went to the UK in July, Seth had gone in June. That was his return flight, whereas it was my going flight. And on visitors' visas, you have to have your return flights booked. That essentially means that Seth had already returned home, which means he doesn't have an outbound flight yet. So now when it came to January, like I said, I had my flight booked. He was then booking a new flight, which means it's really difficult to have them synchronized. This airline is doing this, that airline is doing that. And so we have to go with the best possible flight at the time. So more often than not, we fly separately. I think we've only flown together once or twice, which isn't much at all. So we are very used to flying separately. So, like I said, I arrived here in Pretoria on the 6th. Seth's flight was on, I think, the 12th, which means we were about a week apart. And I had left for Cape Town on the 10th. So we had just missed each other. And then we were reunited when I got back from Cape Town. So it was about like 2 weeks between seeing each other, which isn't so bad because honestly, knowing when you're going to see your person is so much of a relief. Right, so I'm going to be completely honest with you guys and just essentially share the difficulties of being between two countries and neither of them really being accommodating toward your relationship. There are so many ups and downs that we've faced that we never expected. A lot of people actually think that as soon as you're married, like, you automatically get permission to be in your partner's country, but that is not the case. So I left Pretoria back in January. I had a massive sense of relief because things in Pretoria just weren't working out. The reason for that was that Seth's South African visa had not been processed. We'd been waiting and waiting and waiting. It was meant to take 6 to 8 weeks, and at that point it had taken over 6 months. So imagine 6 weeks versus 6 months. It's a bit of a jump. So we definitely struggled a bit with that, and with each day that was passing, it was becoming less and less legal for him to be running his business, things like taxes, because there are double taxation laws and there's so much, and our lives for the longest time since we got married have been revolved around these visas and our ability to have them so that we can physically be together and live life together. So with his visa not having been processed, we were finally able to go to the UK. That was back in January. And then we came back to South Africa and then went back to the UK again, and I was there from June until January. So leaving the UK this time was really difficult. I genuinely struggled with anxiety just because of the place that we had left South Africa at. Internally, I was going through the emotions being here because nothing was working. Like, we couldn't live in our own home anymore. Essentially, we're living out of suitcases, like hopping from my parents' house to my sister's place, which there's so much to be grateful for there because my parents and my sister are between Pretoria and KZN, which means my parents' house in Pretoria was pretty much empty. It would just be my brother here, and then my sister had a place as well. So we were able to hop between my parents' house and my sister's house depending on availability and those things. But it was hard. It was really hard. Like, 100% the provision was there, and I'm so grateful for that. But for my husband and I to not have a place that we can call home, like our home, that was really difficult. Like, within the same month, we moved from house to house maybe 4 or 5 times, sometimes more, sometimes less. There was no consistency, and it was hard. It was really hard. And on reflection, it feels like I was on like fight or flight mode, just like survival mode, essentially. I didn't realize that I had anxiety related to that until it was time for me to leave the UK. And I remember, the night before, when I was packing my last bits, it's actually why I didn't film much of packing, because it was actually really difficult for me. And it was really difficult because the thought of coming back to a lack of stability again, coming back to just constantly living on survival mode. I don't know. So packing for coming back to Pretoria was incredibly difficult. Not because I didn't want to come back home at all. I was genuinely excited to come. Listen, my family is here. I grew up here, so all my friends, everything, like familiarity. I can't tell you how good being back in a space that you just know. There's no thinking twice about anything. It's just like, this is home. But at that point, leaving the UK, it was so heavy. It genuinely felt off just driving to the airport and being at the airport. It almost felt like a dream, like it was trippy, and I was so uncomfortable and so uneasy, and anxiety was within, and I was like, what is going on? Why do I feel so weird? So at the airport, obviously there's so much time before your actual flight. I was just sitting there reflecting on like, what is wrong? What is happening? What's going on with my emotions? Why am I so anxious? And that's when I was able to figure out the fact that I have a lot of anxiety attached to Pretoria because of how difficult it was when we had left back in June, July. Something we actually didn't share because, I don't know, I guess it didn't come up, or I don't know. But when we were here last year between April and June when I left, our car got broken into, some of my things got stolen. Things were just, when it's just off. and it feels like you're being crushed where it's like, or being pushed out, if that makes sense. Feels like you don't belong here and you shouldn't be here. That's genuinely how I felt about being in Pretoria when I'd left. Just things were not working. The emotional association with home was not an easy one. And so the plan at that point was for me to apply for my UK spousal visa. That was with Seth and I having worked through reaching the requirements by the UK government, and we had done that, or were working towards that. And then 2 minutes, does Seth not receive an email in November saying that his South African visa has been processed and is ready to be picked up? I said, what? We had been waiting for this thing for over a year at that point. Seth had applied for it in July of 2021. This was now November of 2022. Remember what I said? It was meant to take 6 to 8 weeks. Did this hunt not take, what's that, 16, 18 months? What are you talking about? So obviously Seth and I had written that completely off. It was like, that's not coming back, so we're pursuing the UK. Like, we're backed into a corner over here. There's nothing else. If we want to be together, it's only the UK at this point. And so we'd worked... Yes, this life is crazy. What on earth? Anyway, so we'd worked our bums off and met all the UK requirements. And then November, gish, literally in the final month of just doing the last preparations of meeting the visa requirements, that came through, and it was a plot twist. So it was a bit of a confusing time. Yo, guys, I couldn't tell you. As a Christian, you really do your best to discern so that you can live according to God's will. But when life throws you curveballs all day, it's so hard to discern or to figure out, like, yo, Lord, like... where do you want us? And like, what does obedience look like in all this stormage? What does it look like for us to be, I don't know, like doing the right thing, if that makes sense? It's been really hectic, but 100% God has been with us and has been guiding us. So Seth receiving the confirmation that his visa was ready through a spanner in the works, because at that point 100% we were convinced that the UK is where we're supposed to be at. And it's been such a whirlwind and genuinely difficult to figure out, like, what is best for our little family of two. What does living look like? Like, are we going to be going back and forth between my parents' house, and should we Airbnb? Like, there've been so many things to consider, because just on the living front, Seth and I haven't had our own space. We've been living out of a suitcase for about 2 years at this point. I say out of a suitcase. While we're in the UK, we definitely stay with Seth's dad. So let's say we've been accommodated by others for the past 2 years, and it's been a massive blessing, don't get me wrong. It's been such a blessing while we figure out what's going on with our visas and how that relates to work and our businesses and finances, everything. But as a married couple, we need our own space. I mean, that's like a major part of just leaving your mother and father's home to go and be married. It's having independence, it's having your own household and building family and making traditions and everything. Like, it's a new household. And so it's been really difficult to marry the very real situation that we've been in because of the bureaucracies of our countries with what we believe marriage is or should be, you know, what the expression of it is in terms of being independent and, you know, building a household. So yeah, I don't know. It's been wild, but we're busy figuring it out. It's going well. There have been tears. But they've also been really good friends and amazing family who have supported us and who love us and are praying for us. And if you have it in you as well, please feel free to pray for us as well. We just want to be together. We just want to be together and settle down. Yo, we are coming up tomorrow, actually, is our anniversary, our 4-year anniversary. That's so mad that it's been 4 years. It is unreal, and it's been so beautiful, but it's also been really difficult, and all the difficulty has come from external processes, things that are out of our control. So even further than that, right now Seth and I are together, praise the Lord. We are staying in an Airbnb, which I'm going to give you a tour of real soon, I promise. But also there's been another plot twist. So with all that said, we've just received more news just this past Monday, and what I'm going to do is I'm gonna have a sit down with Seth and we're just gonna chat to you guys, give you a life update together. We just like to bring you guys on for that. So if you have any questions, we're also more than happy to answer them. So if anything's confusing, I'm more than happy to explain it. You can DM me on Instagram, anything, whatever you fancy, come through. We're here to share our lives with you, so you're more than welcome to ask questions. Also because we know that not everyone goes through this visa struggle, so it might be just new information to you that it's actually really difficult. Let me actually tell you why I'm going to bring Seth on. Essentially, keep your eyes on my channel. If you haven't already, subscribe because it is likely to let you know when I've posted. Otherwise, do turn the notification bell on. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. It helps me on levels and also lets me know that you like this kind of content, and feedback is always helpful. So thank you for coming through, guys. I will see you soon. Have a good week. Seth and I actually are going on a little getaway to celebrate our 4-year anniversary, so we're going to be sharing that as well. So see you real soon. Bye. And with each day that was passing, it was and with each day that was passing, and with each day that it was passing, and with each day that was passing, it was, I don't even know what I want to say anymore. Like, I've repeated the same sentence so many times.